What's up, YouTube? Today we're gonna do a list because people seem to really love those. So we're gonna do a list talking about the Sim AMS2. Stay tuned. All right, YouTube. I got inspired to do the video. One of my better early sim racing videos. I actually wasn't racing. It was me ranking the Assetto Corsa GT3 cars. This is early T300 days, Play C Challenge days. But I realized I listen to list videos all the time when I'm hanging out. So I was trying to think of like a format that I can replicate and do over and over again. Ended up at 3x3. So 3 cars in 3 classes that I would add. But of course there's a couple honorable mentions. Stay tuned. Alright, we're not going to try to set a lap time today. I'm not going to try to break no record. I'm not going to try to explain how this powertrain is different. And that's not going anywhere. But every once in a while, I like to put these into the rotation. Opening up the first thing, if Ferrari was in the game, that would be a huge addition. The amount of racing history they have alone would be enough to fill its own video, because it's literally almost every single class that you could add something to. But it's not going to be for why Ferrari should be an AMS2 video. But honorable mention, I guess the first thing would be DPI class. Now, don't get me wrong, DPI is Daytona Prototype International, and this is the days before, after the IMSA merger with Grand Am, but before IMSA and WEC kind of got in bed together with this LMDH stuff. There's only one DPI car, and that's the Cadillac, and it looks so similar to the hypercar version, but 5.5 NA V8. I actually saw that class in person when I went to the 2020 Daytona 24, but I mean, you had Nissan with the GTR, LMD8 or GTR DPI program. You had Mazda, you had and you had Acura. There has to be more that I can think about, but it's kind of a crime that those never got put into the sim. And like I said, that's the first honorable mention. The second honorable mention is I really wish that the Acura LMDH car was in here. Now, the biggest thing about that is how similar the Alpine is to the Acura. Both categories below F1, but higher tier open wheel categories. And to make it even crazier that it's not in there, it's actually the IMSA car, while the Alpine runs in the World Endurance Championship. But the engine itself, the sound is already in the simulator, and that is the Formula USA 2023. So all you really got to do is put that Formula 2023 sound and adjust the look of and just put in the exterior. Everything else is already there. I'll add clips in of how good that IndyCar sounds right here. And I'll show the look of the Oreca Alpine next to the Oreca Acura right here. Most of the work is already done, so I do think with it being an IMSA licensed game, it's weird that that car isn't in there. But honorable mentions out the way, we're gonna go ahead and go with Group C. Now, I didn't want to put in Group C and have it be chicane cars versus non-chicane cars. So, as bad as I wanted the Peugeot to be on my list, I actually went with the Toyota Minota, which it's very similar to the Toyota GT1, but it's a pre-chicane Amon car, as well as the and then the 787B, which actually was a car that won with chicanes, but again, that's another track that they could put in the sim where you could run chicanes or without chicanes, and it's honestly crazy that it's not there. And it's the 787B, guys. Of course, I think everybody will be happy to have that in there. And then the third Group C car is the Jaguar XJR9. There's only one other naturally aspirated Group C car, and I know turbos kind of dominated the period, but the Jaguar was a big deal. It had the wheel coverage first, big V12. So I just think that would be, I mean, it's kind of a crime in my opinion that it's missing. One Daytona, one Le Mans, and it was such a big deal for them to beat Porsche. They built it just to do that. And then, so those are my Group C cars that I would add in, with the track being, no chicane being in there as well. Next cars would be the Formula USA Gen 1. Now, I will say, I've been watching a lot of the Indy/Champ Car stuff. And I didn't realize, like, I remember seeing the Buick V6 back in the day, but I really didn't pay no attention to it. Watching some of those older Indy 500 races and knowing it's different from the other stuff, I would love to have that in there. Based off all the stuff I've seen, the Buick had power, it had pace. It was just hard to last 500 miles. But that's the fun thing about sim racing. Those cars that might not necessarily have the reliability, but they're different, they're distinct, they're fun. You can put them in there. And I think with that 3-liter turbo V6 compared to the slightly smaller V8s, it has a unique sound. It has and it had pace. So that's one car I would like to see in. The other is the Ferrari, continuing that Ferrari licensing thing. And these are both Gen 1 cars. So Ferrari threatened to leave F1. Was probably more of a threat than like a serious consideration. But I just think it would be cool to a cool racing history story for more people to learn about that car. Now, I did look at the pictures, and I mean, I always put that type of stuff in my videos, but I do think it was cool because it was packaged really well. The exhaust was on the inside of the V, so the turbo, it was just nicely packaged. It's a really beautiful car, and I would love to have seen it in there. And of course, with Ferrari being Ferrari, you know, the IMSA, the 499P, the hypercar would be cool as well. But like I said, it was I wanted to limit it to three with a couple honorable mentions. And then last in the IndyCar Formula USA's, the Beast. Now, I will say the Beast IndyCar has such an advantage with the extra power that it almost should be in a class of its own. Simply because it only ran one race. But even if you just wanted to do a Spec Beast series or if you wanted to give someone that wasn't the best at sim racing an advantage. However you wanted to do it, I do think it would be cool. And like I said, I watched that Indy 500, and it definitely had its own sound. And it was significantly more powerful than the other cars. And with the other cars, I think it's Honda, Toyota. This is Gen 3. Cosworth, Mercedes-Benz. So there's a lot of manufacturers in the Champ Car stuff. But I don't know if I can tell the difference from a power perspective. I think the least powerful in that class is the Mercedes, while the most powerful is like tied between like 3 of them for like 917 horsepower. So it would be cool to have the Buick in there, have the Ferrari in there because of its story, and have the Beast in there as well. With ending on Ferrari in the Formula USA class, we'll go ahead and go into GT1. I love GT1. I think if you know me personally, or if you follow the channel long enough, you know, like, GT1 is peak. It's peak for me in a lot of ways. You know, the early GT1 stuff, when it was a lot more of a street car, is probably better. But they it evolved into Le Mans prototypes, and that's okay. That's the nature of any championship that doesn't have restrictions on its racing. But the F50 GT1, so the F50 road car it's very underrated. It's not as fast as the F40, but it's a sexy car. I think it's slept on as far as being like a Ferrari hypercar royalty type of thing, because the F40 was so good. But the F50 GT1 literally had Formula One engine adjusted, and I know that thing will just be a dog up top, and it will be exciting to drive. Second, I got the CLK GTR. Now, you wonder why the CLK GTR needs to be in the sim. It doesn't need to, but it would be fun, and that's kind of the whole thing. The CLK GTR, you could give it handling just a little bit worse than the LM, but it has that V12. I think it's 6-liter V12 versus a 5-liter V8. So you could give it extra power, and you could do V12 BMW versus V12 Mercedes. And the other reason I say that I think it would be cool is there are a lot of people that I think I could beat, even if I was in the older car and watching a real race. I watched the GTRs of a customer team beat the works Porsche GT1s that ended up winning Le Mans. So why not? It would be cool to have those in there. Last but definitely not least, I got to end the video on me being a big Lotus fan. And that's the Elise GT1. Now, you could argue early GT1 versus 98 GT1 and then GT1 2005 being separate enough to kind of have their own windows. If they added in that Elise GT1 car, they already have a ton of Lotuses in there. You know, you could do the C4. It has a C4 ZR1 engine. I think it's a I'm supposed to be the Lotus guy. I believe it is a cross-plane No, I think it's a flat plane version of the C4 ZR1 engine. Love how that thing sounds. While the road car has the Esprit GT1 engine, the race version has the C4 ZR1 engine. And that's kind of where I talk about early GT1 being in there. Because then, you know, that opens the door for F1 GTR that actually won Le Mans. Esprit GT1, Lister Storm, all of these cars. And I think that would kind of give someone even more to think about. You know, do I buy Project Motor Racing or do I just get another AMS 2-pack? And that's kind of what inspired the video. That being said, guys, leave a comment down below which car you would like to see put in the most. If you could only pick one car. I almost added in the hypercars. I almost did, you know, the three hypercars. That was almost one of the 3x3s I went with. You know, 499P, Toyota GR010, and probably the Peugeot or something, you know, like, but I didn't want to just do just another IMSA, another wet license on here. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, a different format than normally, but I do this type of video every once in a while, so well, just kind of something I wanted to do today. But anyways, hope you guys enjoy the content. Comment down below, and see you guys next time. Apex Vision out.